So fiber optics and networks, Module 5, optical networks, Lecture 5. Wavelength routing networks. The optical layer is based on wavelength dependent concepts when it lies directly above the physical layer. Hence, the entire physical interconnected network provides wavelength signal service among the nodes using either single or multi-hop. This situation is illustrated in figure 15.18. So wavelength wavelength dependent interconnection. A, fixed wavelength nodes. B, wavelength convertible nodes. Three network nodes are interconnected using two wavelength channels, where the solid line indicating the nodes connections represents the available bandwidth wavelength channel, and the dashed line identifies that the wavelength channel is in use. If the network node 1 is required to connect with node 3, then as indicated in figure 15.18a, there is no single wavelength channel available to establish a light path between them. When a light path cannot be established on a link using a single wavelength channel, it is referred to as wavelength continuity constraint. A methodology to reduce this wavelength continuity constraint is to switch the wavelength channel at node 2 by converting the incoming wavelength lambda 2 to lambda 1 to enable a link between node 2 and node 3 to be established. This process is shown in the figure 15.18b. Wavelength conversion is required to convert lambda 2 to a compliant wavelength at the output port of network node 2 in order to provide a path. Hence, the newly set up path uses two wavelength stages to interconnect nodes 1 and 3. Such networks which employ wavelength conversion devices or switches are known as wavelength convertible networks. Several network architectures can be employed to implement wavelength convertible networks. Three different WDM network architectures employing the wavelength conversion function are shown in figure 15.19. So 15.19 Figure 15.19 is wavelength convertible routing network architectures. A. Full or rededicated wavelength converters. Full wavelength conversion where each network link utilizes a dedicated wavelength converter is depicted in figure 15.19a. All the wavelength channels at the output port of the optical switch will be converted into their compliant wavelength channel by the appropriate wavelength converter WC. For example, the topmost wavelength converter changes incoming lambda 1 into lambda 2, which is then connected to a multiplexer. There is no need, however, for wavelength conversion of the local add or drop channels. It is not always required to provide the wavelength conversion function within every network node, and it is more cost effective to implement networks with fewer and hence shared wavelength converters. So-called sparse wavelength convertible network architectures employing a number of wavelength converters as a wavelength converter bank WCB functioning on a shared basis per link and per node are shown in figure 15.19b and c respectively. So this is wavelength convertible routing network architecture based on shared per link. The arrangement of wavelength convertible converters organized in a WCB is illustrated in the inset to figure 15.19b. This figure depicts a WCB servicing the optical fiber links where only the required wavelength channels are switched through the WCB. By contrast, two optical switches are required to construct the shared per node wavelength convertible network architecture indicated in figure 15.19c. Optical switch, two switches, the converted wavelength channels to their designated nodes. A large number of wavelength channels on the network links, however, increase the complexity of switching nodes in ordinary optical cross connects. We switch traffic only at the wavelength level. Moreover, the complexity worsens when the multi-granular optical cross connects are used, where the traffic is required to be accessed at multiple levels. In these cases, the MGOXC output traffic does not simply either terminate at or transparently pass through a node, but may also be required to transport from one layer to another via multiplexers or demultiplexers. This complexity can be reduced if more wavelength channels are grouped into one single waveband to be switched as a unique channel. Such waveband switching networks have been proposed as a possible solution to ease the complexity of numerous wavelength-driven channels, especially in optical core networks. In comparison with a wavelength convertible network node, a WBS node requires only a single input and single output port, as the switching is independent of the number of wavelength channels incorporated inside the waveband. On MGOXC with three switching layers, including wavelength cross-connecting WXC, waveband cross-connecting BXC and fiber cross-connecting FXC layers are shown in figure 15.20. Individual wavelength channels and wavebands are terminated transparently through the WXC and BXC layers separately. The terminated waveband is demultiplexed into individual wavelength channels which are sent to the WXC layer as inputs. Furthermore, the output wavelength channels at the WXC layer can be multiplexed selectively into a waveband which is then sent to the BXC layer as an input. The output wavelength channels from the WXC layer and the output wavebands from the BX layer are grouped and transmitted along the output fiber link. A fiber may contain the same wavelength channels as individual channels and also be incorporated in wavebands, and therefore network control is required to determine which set of wavelength channels is grouped into a particular waveband. The advantage of WBS is that it supports a greater number of wavelength channels and it also reduces the number of switches or ports within the optical network. Next topic is RWA, routing and wavelength assignment. In dense WDM networks or WDM networks, a light path is established by reserving a particular wavelength on the physical links between the source and destination edge nodes. It is a two-stage search and select process related to both routing and wavelength assignment. The overall process is often referred to as routing and wavelength assignment problem or RWA problem. Although there are various possible ways to determine the selection of path and the allocation of wavelengths, they fall into two basic categories of either sequential or combinational selections. Each of these categories fundamentally addresses the core issue of the wavelength continuity constraint. The implementation of RWA can be static or dynamic depending upon the traffic patterns in the network. Static RWA techniques are employed to provide a set of semi-permanent connections which remain active for a relatively longer time. The traffic patterns in this case are reasonably well known in advance, and the variation in traffic per turn is not frequent. Therefore, it is useful to optimize the way in which network resources will be assigned to each connection. Moreover, the static RWA problem is often referred to as virtual topology design problem. Dynamic RWA deals with establishing the light path in frequently varying traffic patterns. In this case, the traffic patterns are not known, and therefore the connection requests are initiated in a random fashion, depending on the network state at the time of request. The resources may be sufficient to establish a light path between the corresponding source and destination edge node pair. The network state provides information about the physical path, that is route, and wavelength assignment for all active light paths. This the state evolves randomly in time as new light paths are admitted and existing light paths are released. Thus, each time a request is made, an algorithm must be executed in real time to determine whether it is feasible to accommodate the request, and if so, to perform RWA. The algorithms are used to decide the shortest path available in a network to establish a connection between the source and destination nodes. In case of unavailability of the path on the same wavelength channel, then alternative routes, including the possibility of wavelength conversion, can be explored. A five-node network with fixed connections where node 1 requested to establish a link with node 5 is illustrated in figure 15.21. Although there is no direct physical connection or path available, there are four possibilities to establish a link between nodes 1 and 5 depending on the available or assigned wavelengths between each of the network nodes. These are via node 2 using a single hop, node 4 and 2 comprising two hops, node 2 and 3 with two hops, and the longest possible route stretching over three hops via nodes 4, 2 and 3. Considering these four routes, the single hop remains the shortest path between nodes 1 and 5. Depending upon whether the same wavelength is available between selected network nodes, the light path can be set up, or alternatively, wavelength conversion will need to be employed by changing it to a compliant wavelength. The second shortest path will be selected if wavelength conversion can be facilitated. In the case when there are no wavelength channels available, then no link can be set up between the desired nodes. Such unavailability of a network link between two nodes leads to blocking of the channel. Moreover, the probability of blocking increases if there are many network nodes with a small number of wavelength channels and fewer links between them. Thus, an RWA algorithm plays an important role in determining the blocking probability of a network while also proving and providing information about the availability of the path or link between the source and the destination. In addition, it also gives an indication regarding the location and the number of wavelength converters that may be required in an optical network. In order to develop a suitable RWA algorithm, it is important to assign wavelengths within a network which offer the lowest or no blocking probability. Therefore, wavelength assignment in RWA, which is dependent on the network topology, is also crucial. An example of wavelength assignment for a ring network where the ring topology consists of four nodes, namely A, B, C, and D, is shown in figure 15.22. It may be observed that there exist four possibilities for establishing light paths between the network nodes as indicated by the two inner and the two outer half circles. Although four individual wavelengths may be required when wavelength reuse is introduced, three wavelengths are sufficient to provide similar connectivity. This situation is illustrated in figure 15.22b, which is drawn by cutting the ring and straightening the network wavelength connections. This approach splits network node D into two halves, DTX and DRX. A total number of five light paths using only three wavelengths, lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3, are therefore indicated in figure 15.22b. Next topic is optical switching networks. An optical switch represents the single most dynamic element in an optical network, which traditionally can switch data between different ports of a network. Broadly, as with electronic switching, optical switching can be classified into two categories, which are circuit and packet switching. An optical switch performs various digital logic operations, allowing signals to switch from one state to another. Therefore, larger arrays of optical switches can switch signals from one port to another. These arrays of switches from circuit switching fabrics known as optical cross connects, which incorporate switching connections or light paths. A router, on the other hand, routes data packets instead of providing circuit switched connectivity. In this case, the data is split into packets which are routed separately through the network and then are reassembled at the receiving terminal to reconstitute the original message. This process provides for more efficient use of the available bandwidth. Both circuit and packet switching techniques are used in high capacity networks. In circuit switched networks, the connection must be set up between the transmitter and receiver before initiating the transfer of data. When the network resources remain dedicated to the circuit connection during the entire transfer and the complete message follows the same path, the circuit is said to be static. The SDH sonnet is an example of a static circuit switch network. However, if the network resources can be reallocated without being the circuit is referred to as being dynamic. Next topic is optical circuit switched networks. In circuit switched networks, a connection is established using available network resources for the full duration of the transmission of a message. Once the complete message is successfully transmitted, then the connection is removed. A circuit switched environment requires that an end-to-end circuit to be set up before the actual transmission can take place. A fixed share of network resources is then reserved for the specific transmission, which no other transmission can use. A request signal must, however, travel from the source to the destination and it should also be acknowledged before the transmission begins. Figure 15.23 provides a block diagram illustrating an optical circuit switched network. In this configuration, six optical nodes, that is A to F, are interconnected and a requested logical connection or path for optical signal wavelength lambda 1 is established, producing a circuit path through network nodes A, B, D, and F. Optical nodes of an OCS network can contain optical switches where large multi-port optical switches or an OXC are used to establish connections between the desired input and output ports. Although different component enabling technologies can be used to construct such optical switches, the basic optical switching function remains the same. A disadvantage of OCS is that it cannot efficiently handle bursty traffic. In such traffic conditions, the data is sent in optical bursts of different lengths and therefore the resources cannot be readily assigned. For example, an active user needs large bandwidth when sending a burst as compared with relatively little bandwidth for a non-active user. Bursty traffic is therefore characterized by both peak and average bandwidth, and much of the bandwidth remains unused with the transmission of bursty traffic in an OCS network. Optical packet switched networks. In an optical packet switched network or OPS network, data is transported entirely in the optical domain without intermediate optoelectrical conversions. An optical packet switch performs the four basic functions such as routing, forwarding, switching, and buffering. The routing function provides network connectivity information often through pre-allocated routing tables, whereas forwarding defines the output for each incoming packet. The switch directs each packet to the correct output, while buffering provides data storage for packet to resolve any contention problems which may occur during packet transmission. Figure 15.24 shows the overall structure of a typical packet. It contains a header or label and the payload, and it requires a guard band to ensure the data is not overwritten. The label points to an entry in a lookup table that specifies to where the packet should be forwarded. Such a labeling technique is much faster than the traditional routing method, where each packet is examined before a forwarding decision is made. At the receiving node, these labels are required to be recognized from the lookup table, and then the data is reassembled sequentially. Since labels define the routing criteria, it is therefore sometimes referred to as label switching, which includes several functions involved in the labeling techniques such as assignment, recognition, swapping, and forwarding, etc. The process of address lookup, however, can be replaced by address matching using optical correlators, which are switching devices employing digital logic gates to perform optical pattern recognition similar to detecting an address from a lookup table. A set of optical correlators can therefore determine whether a packet is destined for a particular switch by correlating the address encoded into the packet with the switch's own address. If there is a match, the payload is extracted and processed. Otherwise, the packet is forwarded to the next switch. The packets in an OPS network can carry different types of traffic, that is voice, data, and video, and therefore such an optical packet switching scheme can integrate existing SDH or SONET and IP-based optical networks. An example of an OPS network is illustrated in figure 15.25. It shows a long haul or core network connected to both a SONET and an IP network. It shows a long haul or core network connected to both the SONET and an IP network. The edge routers performs the functions of attaching and detaching a label as identified for labels 1 and 2 attached to two different optical packets being transmitted to specific networks. Within the OPS network, however, the core router only processes the label where the content of the payload remains the same. This routing function typically involves the following four steps, which are: first one, extraction of the label from the packet; second step, processing of the label to obtain routing information; third step, routing of the payload and contention resolution if necessary; and last step, rewriting of the label and recombining it with the payload. When an OPS network is implemented and only the label is processed electronically for routing purposes, with the payload remaining in the optical domain. The OPS network is generally referred to as an optical label switched network or OLS network. A generic OLS network configuration is shown in the figure below. Figure 15.06 repeats a generic OLS network configuration to route packets while also extracting and rewriting labels at input and output interfaces. In this particular implementation, only the detached label is processed electronically and the payload remains in optical buffers before being sent through the optical switch fabric to the desired output buffers. Finally, the routing processor and control section regenerate the label which is reattached with the data at the output interface. Next comes MPLS or multi-protocol label switching. MPLS provides for the efficient designation, routing, forwarding, and switching of traffic flows through an optical packet switched network. MPLS uses labels to forward traffic across the various MPLS domains. When a labeled packet arrives at a label switching router, the incoming label will determine the path of this packet within the MPLS network. The MPLS label forwarding will then swap this label to the appropriate outgoing label and send the packet on the next network hop. These labels are assigned to packets based on grouping or forwarding equivalence classes. Packets belong to the same forwarding equivalence class, receive the same treatment. Hence, the MPLS lookup and forwarding system allows explicit control of routing based on destination and source addresses. Since a packet's label class is assigned only once at the MPLS edge and packets are switched based on the label information only, then MPLS is a fast and efficient protocol. In practice, an LSR receives a packet from one interface, replaces the incoming label in the MPLS header by an outgoing label, and forwards the packet out to another interface. Thus, MPLS defines a virtual circuit capability depending on the type of network and, in particular, the type of switching by correlating the switching type with the label. Table 15.3 identifies the different traffic types and their related switching and implementations for MPLS. So the different switching domains are time domain, packet or cell domain, and wavelength domain. So traffic related to each domain is specified in the table. Generalized MPLS or GMPLS therefore extends to MPLS, providing additional protocols for wavelength and physical state domains, space domains, that is optical fiber switching. It supports transparent traffic using DWDM and OXCs for the implementation of label switching. GMPLS also incorporates the switching protocols for the automatic discovery of the network topology and announces resource availability to optical nodes. Both these factors are significant when an optical link failure occurs. The signaling protocols for the establishment of label switched paths LSPs for the GMPLS therefore include the announcements to MPLS as follows. First one, label exchange to include non-packet networks. Second one, establishment of bidirectional LSPs. Third one, signaling for the establishment of backup path. Expediting label assignment via suggested label. Last one, waveband switching support, a set of contiguous wavelengths switched together. In addition, GMPLS incorporates a link management protocol which performs the following four functions. First function is control of channel management, which is established by negotiating the link parameters and ensuring the health of a link. Second function, link connectivity verification, which ensures the physical connectivity of the link between the neighboring nodes. Third function, link property correlation, which identifies the link properties of the adjacent nodes. Last function, fault isolation, to enable a single or multiple faults to be isolated in the optical domain. Recently, there have been several demonstrations of successful GMPLS based optical network implementations. The issue of generalization for multi-protocol switching is however dependent on transmission and device enabling technologies, and therefore, in particular, speed and efficiency performance improvements are anticipated in the future. Near future. Optical burst switching networks. Combining important aspects of optical circuit switching and optical packet switching results in optical burst switching or OBS. Moreover, as OBS operates at the sub-wavelength level, it therefore provides for rapid setup and teardown of optical network bypass. This hybrid switching and routing technology uses electronics to control routing decisions but keeps data in the optical domain as it passes through each optical node. Packets with a common destination are aggregated in edge routing nodes into larger transmission units called a burst or a data burst. Each of which is transmitted separately from the data control packet called the burst header cell containing necessary information. Figure 15.27 illustrates the concept of OBS where two edge routers of a large network are shown to establish link between data sources and receivers individually or by using multiplexers or demultiplexers respectively. So this is the concept of optical bus switching is explained in this figure. Optical bus containing both the data bus and the BHC travel on a control channel. An ideal channel on the axis link is selected when a data burst is required to be sent, whereas the BHC travels on the control channel ahead of its associated data burst in time and is processed electronically at every node along the path. The OBS edge router on receiving the BSC assigns the incoming burst to an available channel on the outgoing link, leading towards the desired destination and establishes a path between the specified channel on the access link and the channel selected to carry the burst. It also forwards the BSC on the control channel of the selected link after modifying the cell to specify the channel on which the burst is being forwarded. This process is repeated at every routing node along the path to the destination. The BSC also includes an offset field which contains the time between the transmission of the first bit of the BSC and the first bit of the burst, and the length field specifying the time duration of the burst. One or several channels on each link can be reserved for control information that is used to control the dynamic assignment of the remaining channels to user data bus. It should be noted that the WDM transmission links shown in figure 15.27 carry a number of wavelength channels and the user data bus that can be dynamically assigned to any one of these channels by the OBS routers. Figure 15.28 depicts the edge router information function in more detail, providing bus assembly and disassembly operations at ingress and egress respectively. In figure 15.28a, each of the users operating on different formats, that is IP, SONET, ATM, WDM, or DWM, etc., sends different data to the edge router. The router disassembles the data and issues BHCs on the data control. BHCs on the data control channel in advance for burst 1 and burst 2 respectively. Each burst may contain different data. It should be noted from figure 15.28 that the disassembly at egress edges is simpler than the assembly of the burst at ingress edges. So this is 15.8. Optical burst switch edge router operation showing burst assembly at the ingress and disassembly at egress. A from users to core router. B from core router to users. Figure 15.28 depicts the edge router's function in more detail, providing burst assembly and disassembly operations at ingress and egress respectively. In figure 15.28a, each of the users operating different formats sends different data to the edge routers. So already we discussed this. So the last topic of optical networks is optical network deployment. This we'll discuss in the next lecture.